Hey guys, what's up? I'm here with another top 5. This one is going to be an interesting one because I honestly do not think this top 5 has ever been done before. And I thought of the idea for it when watching one of my all-time favorite cult films. And it is the top 5 body horror moments in TV shows and movies that aren't horror. That do not fall under the horror genre. I'm gonna have to come up with a better, more smooth title for the video, but that's basically what the gist of it is. It has to be something like a movie or TV show that does not classify as horror. It can be sci-fi, it can be drama, it can be action, but it has to have a body horror kind of moment to it, or a body or just a body horror scene or moment or episode. So, without further ado, let's start this thing off with number 5. Number 5 is where I got the idea for this video from, and it is in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Now, if you haven't seen the Bill and Ted films, I highly suggest you go check them out. They're really, really good cult comedies, really entertaining, and they have a very cool kind of sci-fi twist to them. In the second one, it kind of got a bit more supernatural. Like the part where they go to hell and Ted encounters a Easter bunny, and Bill encounters his grandmother, and those two that scene in particular scared the hell out of me when I was a kid, and it might have had to do with the kind of style of how the rooms that those two scenes were in. It kind of had to do with the kind of German expressionist, very pointy, slanted windows and stuff, kind of style. That always kind of factors into things like that. But basically, the moment I'm talking about in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey is when the two stations run towards each other and basically collide and become a big pile of goop or flesh on the ground, and you think that they both just died. I used to think this was an absolutely gross and disgusting scene, and then I kind of went back and rewatched it, and even as an adult, I still get kind of creeped out by it. But still, all in all, it's a very cool scene, and it showcases the pretty awesome effects that are in the movie. Alright, and at number 4, we have a show that is it's actually the only TV show on the list, and it is one that not many people would think that I actually like. Now, if you followed my channel for a while, I might have talked about this. I don't know if I have, but I'm not a very big fan of modern cartoons. Modern cartoons are really just, most of them at least, are just, basically with really stupid characters, not just stupid mentally, but just stupid and they're just bad ideas for characters, and they're characters that have been done millions of times before. And these characters are just really random and wacky and bright and colorful for the sake of being random, wacky, bright, and colorful. Now, this is a show that I wrote off as one of those shows until I actually sat down and watched it, thanks to my friend Chloe, who has a cosplay and makeup tutorial channel. The link is in the description below. I've got around to watching a few episodes of it, and after watching a few episodes myself, I could definitely say it's actually a pretty good show. It's definitely well made, it's well written, entertaining, and it's not just really random and stupid. There's actual characters and character development in it, but the show I'm talking about, of course, is Steven Universe. This is a show that if you don't think that modern cartoons are that good, I definitely suggest you go check this one out. It's actually pretty decent. I'm not the biggest fan, but probably my favorite episode out of all of the ones I've watched so far is Cat Fingers. Now, if you haven't seen Cat Fingers, basically what happens is the main character, Steven, his fingers turn into little cats, and they eventually take over his whole body, causing him to turn into a big blob of, cat monster. And it is a combination of... It's a combination of, a Miyazaki kind of, cutesy spirit, and a and something out of a Cronenberg film. It's a combination of those two, and it really, really works. I mean, it's not like super gross, but it's definitely a very body horror-esque scene, so I thought I would include it in the list. Finally, we get to number 3 with the legendary anime film, which, I mean, I personally kind of classify it as body horror, even though it is definitely more of a science fiction film. Akira. Akira is a really good movie, and if you haven't seen Akira, I suggest you go check it out right now. And this part of the video is going to have spoilers for Akira. So, basically, this one of the main characters gets like infected with this kind of telekinesis superpower virus, and he eventually transforms into a huge anthropomorphic blob of just body horror madness. And if this movie were to become, if they were to make a live action movie out of this, you know, the only director I could see truly making this film is someone like David Cronenberg, because he could do the kind of Tetsuo melting blob kind of effect amazingly, and I think he could definitely pull it off, most definitely. But, yeah, that's number 3. At number 2, we have a film that is another one that I honestly would throw into, like, horror or sci-fi horror, but it's definitely a lot more of a science fiction film than anything else. It's Robocop, the original Robocop. Now, I could talk about many scenes when I'm talking about body horror. I could talk about the scene where Murphy gets blown to pieces towards the beginning of the film. I could talk about the scene where one of the guys gets covered in toxic waste and basically becomes the Toxic Avenger and gets hit by a car and explodes, which that's probably the scene I'm going to talk about. It's that scene in particular. Because it's like that's when Murphy gets revenge on the people who killed him in the first place. And that is like just the ultimate overkill. You cover him in toxic waste, he basically starts melting, and then he gets hit by a car and explodes. Like, that is some pretty awesome overkill, if you ask me. Alright, and at number 1, it's not very hard to see why this is at number 1. This is another film that I put this in my horror films. I put it with my body horror films, but it is more of a kind of really dark drama film, and it is Johnny Got His Gun, which I have a poster hanging for it. I have a poster of this film hanging in my room. Johnny Got His Gun is based on a anti-war novel, and there are a lot of films that are anti-war films that people that are pro-war end up really liking. Stuff like Full Metal Jacket. Like, the number of people that are pro-war that absolutely love that movie is impossibly high. And Johnny Got His Gun is probably one of the most depressing movies I've ever seen, and it is probably one of the best definitions of body horror I can think. And I'm not talking about any particular scene. I'm talking about the entire film, because the film is about a soldier that is hit with a mortar shell, and he loses his sight, his ability to see, hear, like basically loses everything except for his sense of touch and his ability to think. And he's trapped within his own body, laying on this bed, you know, basically just not living at all. And that's the true essence of body horror to me. It is the idea that your own body could be your prison cell. And that's what makes Johnny Got His Gun both very depressing, very intriguing, and you know, very like realistic, because I'm pretty sure that the novel was actually based on a true incident where a soldier was kept alive after he was hit with a mortar shell. And on the back here, it has a quote from the main character: "I don't know whether I'm alive and dreaming or dead and remembering." And this movie was, it's literally just a movie about a guy trapped within his own mind, you know, wondering if he's dead or alive, and his body is his prison cell. It's very depressing, very dark, and it is most definitely the essence of what true body horror is.